Hello everyone. Welcome to the crash course in energy presented by the Energy Club IT Bombay. I'm Nitish and today we will discuss about one of the most fascinating topics in the energy sector, that is solar photovoltaics. So, ready? Let's kick off.
Solar is the only way by which our homes can go on a fully self-sustainable mode, under full control. I tried making this presentation more like an outlook to bore you less. Therefore, a lot of stuff has been missed or left untouched, and you can ask me that after the presentation or even later. So we'll start with the overview, then we'll go into the workings, followed by challenges, and then we'll look into the future. Okay, next. So in the last 5 years, we have almost doubled our capacity, solar generation capacity. 14% was to be added in 2020, almost 142 gigawatts. We are the fifth. We are the country with the fifth largest capacity, solar capacity in the world. Um, Still not enough. There are many serious issues, which we are facing as a generation: energy scarcity, energy security, water scarcity, growing consumption of natural resources, carbon emissions, climate change, biodiversity conservation, unhealthy oceans. Now, the only good thing about these problems is that they are interconnected. When we solve one, others start falling into places, into their place. We'll talk about government and policies. MNRE is the ministry uh, which takes care of the renewable energy deployment, providing tax benefits, excise and custom duty exemptions. This and International Renewable Energy Agency found that the cost of setting up a solar photovoltaic projects have dropped by about 80% in India between 2010 and 2018. This is a huge decrease, and they are doing far better than the predictions made at that time. And even now, if you make prediction that how much the cost of solar will decrease, it will do better than that. And we have this good thing. This is called National Clean Energy Fund. It funds almost 40% of the total cost of renewable energy projects through the Indian 11, this IREDA. And this cess is around 400 rupees per ton of coal. These are the companies which have invested in India. The hype is huge. Every company is trying to come into the Indian market, Indian solar market. The total foreign direct investment grew almost 20% to $1.4 billion. These are the companies: this Abu Dhabi Investment Authority, SoftBank, you know, APG, and in fact, these companies, Goldman Sachs, JP Morgan, Morgan Stanley, they have already entered the sector and reaped decent returns. Many multilateral and bilateral agencies, as well as sovereign wealth funds, have pumped significant FDI into the Indian clean energy space. Now we'll see the working of these things. How do they work? They actually make use of PN junctions, which are made by silicon wafers. There are more than 10 types of solar cells, but mainly commercially there are three. So first we'll see how the modules work, then the plant, and then we'll look at how panels are made.
Panels are made up of smaller units called solar cells. The most common solar cells are made from silicon, a semiconductor that is the second most abundant element on Earth. In a solar cell, crystalline silicon is sandwiched between conductive layers. Each silicon atom is connected to its neighbors by 4 strong bonds, which keep the electrons in place so no current can flow. Here's the key. A silicon solar cell uses 2 different layers of silicon. An N-type silicon has extra electrons, and P-type silicon has extra spaces for electrons, called holes. Where the 2 types of silicon meet, electrons can wander across the p-n junction, leaving a positive charge on one side and creating negative charge on the other. You can think of light as the flow of tiny particles, called photons, shooting out from the sun. When one of these photons strikes the silicon cell with enough energy, it can knock an electron from its bond, leaving a hole. The negatively charged electron and location of the positively charged hole are now free to move around. But because of the electric field at the p-n junction, they'll only go one way. The electron is drawn to the N side, while the hole is drawn to the P side. The mobile electrons are collected by thin metal fingers at the top of the cell. From there, they flow through an external circuit, doing electrical work like powering a light bulb, before returning through the conductive aluminum sheet on the back. Each silicon cell only puts out half a volt, but you can string them together in modules to get more power. 12 photovoltaic cells are enough to charge a cell phone, while it takes many modules to power an entire house. Electrons are the only moving parts in a solar cell, and they all go back where they came from. There's nothing to get worn out or used up, so solar cells can last for decades.
This EVA is ethylene vinyl acetate. This is basically an adhesive between solar cells. It gives more stability at elevated temperatures, protection against high UV exposure. All of these is technically transparent. Optically transparent actually. Now this is the working of a solar plant. It is not very different from how a solar panel works, just that the panels are more, inverters are more, the junction boxes, connectors, bypass diodes, MC4 connectors, all these things, advanced diodes, all these things increase in number to give us the output that the plant produces.
Photovoltaic panels are the basic building blocks at solar power plants. They can be installed on the roof of a home or grouped into vast arrays. Each panel consists of several solar cells less than a millimeter thick. These cells contain a semiconducting material that releases electrons when photons, the particles that make up light waves, crash into it. Extremely fine metal wires carry electrons to the negative terminal of the cell. They then follow an external circuit that leads to the cell's positive terminal. The resulting flow of electrons is the source of the electric current. The current passes from cell to cell, panel to panel, combining with the currents from all other cells along the way and flowing into the inverter. The inverter transforms the direct current into an alternating current, which feeds into a substation that boosts its voltage to between 225,000 and 400,000 volts. Thus modified, the current is easy to transmit over the power grid's high voltage lines. Regular maintenance and inspection ensure that solar plants remain fully operational.
So this is how it works. Now we'll see how modules are made. First, what we do is we mine and purify silicon. Then this pure silicon cylinders called ingots are daubed with N or P, making them, then sliced into wafers. Then they are trimmed into rectangles or hexagons so that, to maximize the area. They are then coated with anti-reflective substances so that we lose less light to make it more efficient. Then they are sealed and then placed into aluminum frames, again sealed with the sheet of glass or plastic. Glass and plastic because hailstorms and all of these things, so they don't get affected, almost 3 to 4 mm thick. This is an advanced process of almost automated how solar panels are made. So these are the main types of the solar cells. Monocrystalline, they are made of a growing single crystal. They are normally dark looking with the round edges. Polycrystalline, these are, the most largely available things. They are faster and cheaper to be made. Affected by, they are sometimes affected by temperature, but normally they are comparable to monocrystalline, only that their efficiency is, the efficiency of monocrystalline is almost 20 and polycrystalline is 15. They are made by melting raw silicon, because of this construction method, the crystal structure will form imperfectly, but in any case they are faster, so therefore better. These thin film are the second generation for solar cells. These are easy to produce, made by depositing one or more thin layers of material on a substrate such as glass, plastic, or metal. They are flexible. But the problem is that the problem is efficiency. Means the other type of solar cell is concentrated PV cell. These are not commercially available, but still their efficiency rate is very high, and performance is also great. Thing is that they need a solar tracker or a cooling system with them to reach the highest efficiency rate, and solar trackers are still, not that famous. Still a unmature technology. Now this is the radiation. We are between Tropic of Cancer and Capricorn, and this we receive ambient solar radiations enough to power all our needs. Almost 5.5 hours direct sunlight is easily available in India. These are the solar potentials of all the states. Highest is Rajasthan, followed by Jammu Kashmir, Maharashtra, MP, Andhra, Gujarat, Himachal Pradesh, and Karnataka. Time and orientation. According to the place where you live, you should orient the solar panels. This is the optimal angle. For India, it is almost like 10 to 24 is good. Again, according to which place you live. This is on the 90-degree north and 90-degree south. That means north and south poles. The solar radiations are available either all day or not at all. It's such a case, and almost in between we get ambient sun rays according to our location. Almost like 8 to 9 hours, out of which 5.5 is really crucial.